I took control of my life from my toxic in-laws and never looked back. I had always known my in-laws were a bit much. When I first started dating Sam, I thought it was just the usual family quirks. Overbearing parents, intense sibling dynamics, nothing out of the ordinary. But over time, I began to realize that the reality was far darker than I'd imagined. It wasn't just about too many family gatherings or unsolicited advice. No, this was toxic. This was suffocating. Sam's mother, Karen, was a force to be reckoned with. She had a way of making everything about her, twisting every situation to her advantage and weaving guilt into every interaction. It was always, why aren't you doing more for the family? Or, if you truly cared about Sam, you'd spend more time with us. And then there was his brother Tom, who was always the golden child in their eyes, no matter how much of a mess his life was. It didn't take long for their behavior to start affecting me. At first, I tried to brush it off. I smiled, nodded, and put up with their constant criticisms. But as Sam and I moved in together, things started to get worse. Karen made it her mission to tell me how to run my life, what I should cook for dinner, what kind of furniture I should buy, and how I should treat Sam. And Tom? He was no better. He had this habit of making sarcastic remarks, always undermining me in front of Sam, questioning my decisions like I was incapable of handling my own life. I felt myself slowly drowning in their expectations. And Sam? He was caught in the middle, torn between me and his family. At first, he defended me, but it wasn't long before his loyalty began to falter. He didn't want to deal with the drama, so he withdrew into the background, letting his family's constant interference dictate the course of our lives. I began to lose myself. The confident, independent woman I used to be was slipping away, replaced by someone who was just trying to keep the peace at any cost. But the breaking point came one Sunday afternoon when Karen made a public scene at our house over something trivial. The guilt trips, the accusations, it was all too much. That was the moment I knew I had to make a change. I remember that Sunday vividly. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow through our living room windows. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but warm. Karen had shown up unannounced, as she often did, her presence a storm cloud looming over everything. Sam had been away on a business trip, so I was alone when she barged in, demanding to know why I hadn't followed her suggestion for our living room decor. It seemed so trivial at first. It was just furniture. But Karen's voice rose, sharp and insistent, as she criticized my choices. If you really knew how to make this place feel like a home, you'd do it right. Do you even listen to Sam? The words stung, but it wasn't just the criticism that hurt. It was the constant undermining, the feeling that nothing I did would ever be enough. And then, in front of me, Karen began to guilt-trip me about Sam's work schedule, implying that it was somehow my fault that Sam wasn't spending enough time with his family. That was when I snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't going to sit there and take her venomous words 1 second longer. I stood up, my heart pounding, a wave of adrenaline rushing through me. Karen, I said, my voice cold but steady, I'm done with this. I'm done with you telling me how to live my life. This is my home, and I will make decisions for my family, with or without your approval. Her eyes widened in disbelief, as if she couldn't comprehend what I had just said. But I wasn't done. The words were coming now, flowing out of me like a river that had been dammed up for far too long. You've crossed the line too many times. You've made me feel small, insignificant, like I'm not good enough for your son. But I am, and I'm not going to let you destroy our relationship with your constant control. For the first time, Karen was speechless. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. It was like she couldn't fathom the idea that someone would stand up to her. And that was when I knew I had taken back control. I had finally found the strength to stand up for myself, to stop letting her dictate my life. As Karen turned on her heel and stormed out, I stood there in silence, the weight of the moment settling in. I had done it. But there was more to come. The moment Karen slammed the door behind her, I felt an overwhelming wave of relief wash over me. But that relief quickly gave way to uncertainty. I had taken control of my life, but what would happen next? Would Sam be angry? Would he resent me for standing up to his mother? The questions churned in my mind as I stood there in the now silent house, trying to catch my breath. When Sam came home a few hours later, I could already feel the tension building. He walked in, sensing something had happened, and immediately asked, "What's going on?" Why was Karen so upset when she left? I could see the concern in his eyes, and it made my heart ache. I didn't want to hurt him, but I couldn't let him be the buffer between me and his family anymore. I had to be honest with him, even if it wasn't easy. "Sam," I started, my voice firm but steady, "I had a confrontation with your mom today. She came over and started criticizing me, undermining my decisions, and trying to guilt trip me again. I had enough, and I told her I wasn't going to tolerate it anymore. He looked taken aback, but he didn't interrupt. I could tell he was processing what I had said. I didn't want to have this conversation, but it's clear I can't keep ignoring what's been happening. Your mom has crossed the line, Sam. She doesn't get to control me or our relationship anymore. I won't let it happen. He was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant, like he was trying to figure out where he stood in all of this. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft. I don't know what to say. I've always tried to keep the peace, to make everyone happy. But I can see how much this has hurt you, and I've been blind to it. I exhaled, feeling a knot in my chest loosen. He wasn't angry. He wasn't blaming me. He was just processing. I don't want to fight with you, Sam, I continued, my voice a little softer now. I just want us to be happy. I don't want to live my life with your mom always lurking in the background, controlling everything. If that means distancing myself from her, then that's what I have to do. Sam nodded slowly. I understand, and I'll support you. I'll talk to her. It's time things change. That was the moment I knew everything was going to be different. I had taken control, not just of my life, but of my future. I had Sam's support, and with that, I could face whatever came next. The conversation with Sam that night marked the turning point. As much as I had feared his reaction, his understanding, and the quiet resolve in his voice gave me the strength to move forward. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was in control. The next few days were awkward, to say the least. Sam tried to talk to Karen, but it was clear that nothing had changed in the way she saw things. She called him multiple times, trying to make him feel guilty for siding with me, trying to manipulate him into thinking that I was the one who had created drama. It was the same old routine, the guilt trips, the emotional blackmail, the passive-aggressive comments. But Sam stood his ground. Each time Karen called, he spoke up, explaining that he couldn't keep pretending that her behavior wasn't affecting our marriage. There were moments when I could tell he was torn, moments when he wanted to fix things for everyone, but he knew that something had to give. He couldn't keep sacrificing our happiness for the sake of his family's comfort. What struck me the most, however, was the shift in Sam's attitude toward me. As the days passed, he started to become more present, more us, than we'd been in a long time. We spent the evenings together, focusing on each other, rebuilding the intimacy we had once lost to the drama. Sam was no longer the distant partner trying to appease everyone around us. He was the man I had married again. We started making plans for our future, just the two of us. I had stopped talking to Karen and Tom for a while, setting firm boundaries. It wasn't easy at first. There were moments of doubt, when I questioned if I was doing the right thing, when I missed the times we all pretended to get along. But every time I began to second-guess myself, I reminded myself of why I had made that choice. The weeks turned into months, and the distance between me and my in-laws only grew. Karen and Tom, who once held so much sway over our lives, became distant memories of a past I was learning to let go of. The space I had created was filled with peace and freedom, a life I was building on my terms. Sam continued to stand by me. His commitment to our relationship never wavered, and with each passing day, I felt more certain that I had made the right decision. Sam continued to stand by me. His commitment to our relationship never wavered, and with each passing day, I felt more certain that I had made the right decision. The months that followed felt like a quiet kind of victory. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. I had freed myself from the suffocating grip of my in-laws, and it was like I could finally breathe again. Sam and I started to thrive in ways I hadn't thought possible. We took spontaneous trips, spent more time with friends, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had reclaimed parts of myself I had almost lost. Karen and Tom were still in the picture, but their influence was nowhere near what it had been. The phone calls from Karen grew fewer and fewer as Sam stuck to his resolve. At first, I could see that he struggled with the decision. He hated confrontation, and he loved his mother, but he loved me more. It was clear that he was choosing our marriage over family loyalty, and that meant everything to me. One day, I found myself looking back at how far I had come. The woman who had once been afraid to speak up, to stand her ground, was now someone entirely different. I was stronger, more confident, and most importantly, I was at peace. Then, one afternoon, as I was cleaning out the garage, Sam came to find me. His face was serious, a bit hesitant. He held his phone in his hand, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. "Mom called," he said, his voice guarded. She wants to meet." I took a deep breath, trying not to let the anxiety creep back in. "What does she want, Sam?" "She says she's sorry. She wants to fix things. She wants to talk. With us. Together," he added, still watching me carefully, gauging my reaction. I stood there for a long moment, the decision weighing heavily on me. The old me would have been tempted to go, to try and smooth things over, to put on a mask of politeness for the sake of family, but the new me, the woman who had taken control of her life? No, I said firmly. We've worked too hard to get to this point. I'm not going back to that place, not for her. Sam looked at me, his gaze softening. He nodded slowly, then put his arm around me. You're right. We don't have to go back. We've built something better, and I'm not losing it again. In that moment, I realized that I had truly let go of the past. I had taken control of my life, and I wasn't looking back. The toxic grip of my in-laws was a distant memory, and the life I had with Sam was my future. Together, we were stronger, happier, and freer than I ever thought possible. And that's when I knew nothing would ever hold me back again.